Right, well, this whole strategy that I'm going to talk you through was born out of, in my last school as head of department, we would give lots of mock examinations, mark them, give them back to the children, and get the children to look at their areas of weakness. And we found that you very quickly lose what they gain from the mock. And it wasn't a very effective way of giving them feedback. One day I went into my friend's room, who's a maths teacher, and he'd written this program in Excel that analyses exam papers for you. It requires a little bit of effort, hence I've stolen it, brought it with me, because this is the version that we worked on for science. I'll say from the outset, I'll put this on the school system, but if it breaks with the algorithm that's written in it, I can't fix it. I'm sure that somebody at the IT department can, but I can't write algorithms. There you go.
They will be able
These guys
to.
will probably be able to fix it.
Algorithms.
Algorithms. I'll show you.
We're all confused.
Right. So basically, what this allows you to do is it allows you to take an exam paper, get the children to set the exam paper, and then you code the exam paper. You break it down question by sub-question. So if you look at my spreadsheet, what you've got there in front of you is what the kids get back after one exam paper. And what it's basically doing is it's showing what percentage of the overall marks they got on each subject area there for that paper. So that paper I've highlighted there is a Physics Unit 2 paper. This was a higher tier set as well that you've got in front of you. It's colour-coded because we found if you go in and conditional format it and then print it off to the kids, they can very quickly just go, right, I was rubbish at that and that. I need to go away and revise it. If you're ahead of the game like we were when I finished with this, we actually then had folders at the front of the desk which had individual exam questions on those topic areas. So for their homeworks, it was all encompassed, it was all done. They would get their feedback and go, right, I was rubbish at life cycle of a star, I need to take the question on life cycle of a star, get that done, get that back. The first time you do this, the kids are a little bit, I've done it with my year 11s here, the second time you do it, they're chomping at the bit for their feedback, they want it because they've gone away and they've actually improved on their outcome of their exam because they've actually focused on what they were rubbish at. Right? And what we also found, and what I've also found in my time doing this, is that you don't always have to have taught children the syllabus before you give them a GCSE exam paper. Because when you do this sort of analysis with it, you find that there's stuff they already know, and you don't need to waste your time teaching it to them. You need to focus on what they don't know. And I think we spend a lot of our time working through the syllabus instead of actually being a bit more flexible with it and really teaching what they don't know. And in science, if you haven't noticed, with the new syllabus that's coming through, they've increased the amount of stuff they have to know, just the facts they have to know. So we're not going to have time to teach it. So I think using something like this will really help pick out what they can't do and allow us to focus our teaching on what they can't do, not sort of building their confidence with what they can do. Because kids will tell you when they revise, they'll always go to what they like revising, not what they need to revise. So I'll talk you through a little bit about how the actual spreadsheet works now. So you just paste your kids' names in at the top. You've got several tabs here. You've got an analysis tab. This is where all the algorithms are in these buttons up here. Alright. You need your kids' names across here, and you need your kids' names in the data area. This does take time to do. Alright? Because what you need to do is take the exam paper, so I've got one exam paper here, and I've broken it down sub-question. But what I do is I do this while they're sitting the exam in front of me on my computer. The more you've done this, the more you already have the codes in place and you don't have to rewrite it. I mean, I'm in a position now for science where I've got them coded for every single exam paper for the new spec because I've done it over a year. And all I've got to do is wait for yesterday's biology to be available to me and I can do it, and it's done for next year's mock analysis. Alright, so it's labour intensive to start off with, but at the end of the day it's worth it. You've then got 3 columns for 3 different codes. And then the next column is the mark. So that's a total mark that was available for 1A part 1. Okay? And what the software is doing is it's picking up what they got compared to that mark and giving you a percentage. If you did it over 2 papers, which I could do here, and the code appears in both, it will bring it up as a percentage of all the marks available over 2 papers. Okay, so if they're getting something wrong again and again, it will pick that up. You go to the code page, and this is where you have to put the information. Because on this page, you just want to put a 3-letter code in. You make these up yourself, based on the question. And when we tried to introduce this in my department, everyone was like, oh, it's loads of work, loads of work. Half a year in, they're all better teachers. And they're better teachers because they're really, really thinking about what was being asked in the question. Because if you've got to create a code for it, a short code and an explanation for what the question was asking, you've really got to thought about the exam paper. And you find that when you're teaching kids, you can refer to that when you're teaching them very, very easily. So in my code section, I've got the code that needs to go in next to each question. And then this is the bit, the name bit here is what you'll see generated when I hit the button in a minute, which is in that column there on the left-hand side. So that's what the kids are actually going to get back and say whether they're good or bad at that. And then a little description for yourself over here if you ever need to go back and actually think. If a kid asks you a specific question about that area, you can actually put some more information about the question in. You don't have to do that when you're under the cosh and you're in a rush. You can leave that blank, all right, just to get the bare bones of this. But what's nice, what I think is really powerful about this is for science especially, on this side you've got another set of codes which are skills. And they're going to be the same over every single paper, so interpreting graphs, long answer meant communication questions, describing questions, explaining questions. If you've got 4 papers that you've done this with, and then you just click those, highlight those ones to search, it will generate what skills they're really weak at. And then you get to the point where you can say, okay, you're rubbish at electromagnetic waves, you're rubbish at this, this and this, but also you need to focus on data-driven questions, so you can give them both. You can hit 2 birds with 1 stone. Yeah, so it really focuses what you do with them. And what I've done already is I've highlighted the first paper. So when I coded this, I've sort of colour-coded them, so I know that's the second paper and that's the first paper. I need to select up here my cells. So the first paper runs from cell 3 down to cell 30. So that's what I click in here. So I'm going to change that to 30. And then I just hit extract. I'll give it a second. Okay. I've conditional formatted that. Do you know how to conditional format? Yeah? You just highlight it and it's just a tab up here. Okay, so I'll bring that average column in as well because I want to do that in a second. Conditional formatting. Colour scale. Done. Alright? So that can go to the kids as it is and they can go, okay, these are my areas of weakness. But what I like teaching is if I put equals average and then highlight that column, pull it down, so I've basically taken the average percentage on each question. I can now sort that, which is what I've done on the one you've got, based on so if I'm doing revision, I now know that that's my next 4 lessons with that class. That's what I need to do with them, because that's what either they didn't get or I was really rubbish at teaching. And if I've got 3 classes and I keep getting the same things coming up like that, I need to go and speak to another member of staff and say, help me out with life cycle of the start, because the kids just don't get it when I do it. It's not, we found after using this for a year, it wasn't just a tool for improving the kids, it's a tool for improving us as well. And you've got to sort of embrace it with open arms and say, okay, I'm not brilliant at everything, there's going to be some areas that I'm rubbish at. And I think this has made me a better teacher as a result of using it. And I'm going to try it, because I never taught A-level, so I'm going to try and code some A-level papers with this. What I'll do is I'll put it on the school pool, a blank version, and if any of you want any help coding it and setting it up, because I did help the English department last year in my last school, because they've really thought they couldn't use this, because it didn't fit their style of exams, but when we broke it down, it's nowhere near as complex for English, but you can still pick out certain skills. I don't know how it would work with MFL, I've never got round to actually getting in with them, but I'd need to see exam papers. But I know it works with drama, I know it works with art, not really, art's not really art. IT, it'll work with, you know. And it's quite complex, but I think it's of value if you use it. I think.
Language,
Yeah.
I mean, it was written for maths. I mean, what they used to do is to have a double, because of the way the timetable was set up, they had a double maths lesson every 2 weeks, and then they just did exam papers and did this, and that's how they didn't actually teach to a specification. You just, from year 9 onwards, they taught them GCSE, and they gave GCSE exam papers every 2 weeks.
same as maths are doing here.
Yeah, so it's very much. But yeah, I mean, you can get, it's also done summative data one, so that's quite interesting when you look at the red on that. That's a high tier physics 2 paper, and look, they all got B's and C's on that. So this was at the start of the year. But even when they look at that, or they can get quite cocky if they get a B, you give them back that with loads of red on, they go, oh, okay. Because I mean, it's like 32 out of 60 for B, most of our papers.
Also that bit of just limping over into a grade and then feeling secure, whereas if they see that actually they've been secured in just enough questions, but the majority they're not secure, that gives a very clear message as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It gives them very clear ideas of what they need to revise, doesn't it, in areas that are lacking. So
I mean, we were also trying to do a lot of space practice as well with this. So you would pick out what they were really rubbish at, and you would just do that, cycle through those things every 2 weeks. Over 2 weeks, but each lesson, the starter would be something on one of their weak areas. So they just got constant exposure to it.
It sort of begs the question of doing something with, commonality across the school as well, because we're each training, each department is now training students to look at marked papers, or indeed mark papers, highlight the areas they need to revise. I don't know whether sometimes, as Chris said, they just sort of gloss over things that they find maybe a bit difficult, or they see that it's more or less right and they move on, but it's not as secure. So it almost lends itself to a bit of work with the students themselves in terms of analysis of papers. Be interesting to share this, say, with year 11s and year 10s.
Just thinking about it now, give it to year 13s and get them to code it themselves.
Yeah, that's another
They
one.
really get a lot out of that from just looking at that deeply at the exam paper. So what was it really asking you, given the mark scheme? Because I can't code this unless I've got the mark scheme and the exam paper. I've been teaching 14 years science, and I still have to sometimes question it.
Very personalised.
Yeah.
It is.
Every single kit was going to have feedback, especially
What was nice is when we got Ofsted, the maths teacher had a marked book, and he gave them that, and they gave him a 1, said it was the best feedback they've ever seen. And he developed this because he wasn't putting as much effort there, but his effort went into this. I mean, you will find when we do mocks that you would be spending quite a bit of time doing this. But you can alleviate some of the time by just printing out little grids for the kids to actually go through and put their numbers in for each question, and then you can just sit and type it. Like you stop controlling test scores.
To your point as well, Deborah, you then said that you had resources linked to each of the areas. So a bit like I see in maths, you come and self-select what you need to work on, don't you? You mark the papers, you get your feedback, you know you've got to do still some work on that. So actually, that's the next task you need to be doing. From that, the selection of maybe 4 or 5 at the front of the room.
Yeah.
That's what you've
You've
done.
got to start your next lesson, yeah.
Yeah.
And also
Start with that.
differentiate, because probably
Mm.
one kid is getting everything 2 or 3 and getting that part, but the rest no. So they can probably work on something that they are not getting that the others are, and probably do a little bit of differentiating to
Mm.
specific.
Mm.
Yeah, with top set classes, it's nice because you'll get quite a few of them who are getting it. But this allows you to pick out like 4 or 5 kids you can just pull over a lesson and just focus on them on that specific area they were really struggling with.
So you're setting yourself up as a little bit of a consultant, if there's a department.
Yeah, I mean, I
to
don't
pick your
mind. Yeah, I
brains.
don't mind helping set
It's
this
quite
up.
handy being in the science department, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's all there. We've done it all.
So if you
Yeah.
still wanted something in books with that, then you could just have another field in VLOOKUP to look up what their most high priorities were.
Exactly.
And then you could mail merge that onto a sticky label like we have, and then that could just be stuck in the book.
See, I need an IT
Just
person to come in
the,
and help me now because I lost mine.
Just be a click of a button and then it just print on it.
That'd be good.
Because you know my science GCSE videos, we work producing mail merges based with little statements saying,
So
right,
tell
you
you
were
which
not
one
very
to
good
go
at
to.
this, you need to go and
Yeah.
watch this video, here's the hyperlink, boom.
Because we have a similar mark book for Key Stage IT where it's not just as we mapped out what skills I need to do to get certain levels. Then we've got check boxes, but then it generates a comment at the end of this is to the current level because you need to do this to get to the next thing, and then we can mail merge that onto a Word document and upload
Do
it
your
to
reports for you. You what you need to know part of the reports, what you need to do next. You can use a mail merge to generate that.
Well, I can,
Yeah,
Yeah, as you say, it takes a bit of legwork to start.
Yeah.
it does, but once
Once
you're a
you've
year
done it.
in,
You know,
I mean, I did it with our year 11s here, and it took me all of 20 minutes to just put their code in and give them the sheets back. Whereas last year it was taking me about an hour and a half to code the paper, get it inputted, and then do it. Now I can just do it really quickly. And the kids appreciate it. And once they get into a routine of doing it, they want it. They pester you for it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you
That's
very
all right.
much.